All right, welcome back. Todd Morris with you here on the Bulldog Radio Network, and it's time to sit down with UMS-Wright head football coach Terry Curtis for our weekly pregame interview. And, Coach, we say it all the time in the playoffs, you just want to survive and advance, and we did just that last week against Greenville. Final score 14-12, and, really not a whole lot of offensive stats in the game, but the only one that matters is on the scoreboard, and we survived, and we're moving on.
Well, it's kind of like I said last week, their front was by far the best we had seen. And I knew last week we were going to have a hard time blocking them. And we did have a hard time blocking them. And really never did block them, but we found a couple of things we could do. Had the one little drive and scored, and then had the picked up the fumble or the interception and scored. So, it came down to kicking. They went for two and didn't make it. So now they're chasing points, and when they scored to make it 14-12, they had to go for two again and didn't make it. So, it was a good win for us against a good team that had a bunch of athletes. So, we probably wasn't a good matchup.
Right.
If you look at it for what we do and what we were facing.
But if you were at the game and you're watching the game, you were just on the edge of. For me, I was on the edge of the seat the whole night waiting for that big play to happen. Who was going to make it? Where was it going to happen? And really we waited till the fourth quarter, and then they made a big play after our interception on the 80-yard pass play. Then our senior, Robert Courtney, makes a big play on they're going to call it a pick six, but it was more of a fumble catch in the air and score. Yeah. And you were just waiting for it. We made it, and our seniors, I felt, stepped up and made plays.
Well, you don't want to say they're the ones that's supposed to, but they're the ones you expect to.
Right.
And Robert is our leader over there. Now that Clark's gone, he's our leading tackler, and he's the one that sets everybody on defense. And for him to make that play, it's not like you don't appreciate it, but, that's who it's expected out of.
Right.
It's somebody like him to step up, get a big sack, or do whatever to turn the ball game around. And Robert had the opportunity. I probably told him this week, as I do always, before the game, good players make plays in games like this.
Yeah.
And you don't know when your opportunity. It may not be a touchdown pass or catch or whatever. It may be a block kick. It may be a fumble or whatever. But when you have that opportunity, make the play. And he did. And
The other big play you and I had mentioned earlier in the week was right before the half when they broke the long pass. We were able to tackle him on the 15-yard line, or they're right in the ball game at halftime.
Our deal all the time is, play for another play sometimes. With us in space against certain guys, we have trouble getting them on the ground. But get him on the ground and play for another play. And our freshman is who it was, Jeff Holston. I really didn't think he was going to be able to catch the guy. And some way or other, he ran him down and tripped him up and tackled him about the 10 or 15-yard line, or that's going to be a big momentum change.
Yeah.
Because that ended the half on that play. It wasn't like there was a few seconds left or whatever. The horn went off during that play. So that may have been as big as anything.
Yes. And then last week we were sitting there talking about quarterback Barton Elliott and his passing stats over the previous two games. And then this week it wasn't the passing game, but it was more of his legs and running the football. He only had 9 carries for 31 yards, but, man, he was able to extend some plays and extend drives for us, especially on the scoring drive that we had.
Well, he did. And it wasn't like he had an opening and took off. There were people all around him.
Yeah.
A couple of them I don't know how he got out of and was able to gain some positive yards. But it came back. We had some guys open all night. There were some things we could do in the passing game. We just couldn't protect long enough, to do them. So luckily we had an athlete good enough who could do some things with his legs. And you're right, that the drive that we scored on, he did that a couple of times.
All right, so now here we are on the road for our third-round game, and we face a team that I consider probably as close to a rivalry as we're going to get next to St. Paul's in Andalusia. They're 8-4 on the season after beating Demopolis last week, but they're really a team I think that looks like us. They want to run the football first. They're not going to depend on the passing game. They want to run it first and play good defense. And the winner's going to move on to the semifinals. So what are your thoughts going into this game this week?
Well, first of all, we have a lot of respect for Andalusia. Trent and those guys do a great job. I think it's mutual. I think they feel the same way about us. We've played so many times over the last 10 years that, within the same region, we were playing there for about 3 years, twice a year, every year.
Or three.
Yeah, exactly. And so that part of it is good. They have a great facility up there. It's a fun place to go play. And it's a city school where whole town going to let out. So the environment's going to be great. But you're exactly right. I told the kids yesterday, I said, how many of y'all watched any film this week? A bunch of them, they always raise their hand. I said, all right, what's the one thing that we've got to do if we want to win this game? They said, well, we got to stop the run. I said, well, that's one. I said, what do we got to do on offense to win the game? And they said, we've got to execute. And that's exactly right. We've got to be able to stop the run. If they're going to beat us, we've got to make them beat us passing, not with those running backs running wild like they've done against everybody. And number two, we've got to execute. And Tom, what that really means is not make big plays and do all this kind of stuff. We can't have the stupid penalties, the motion penalties. We've got to stay ahead of the chains. When we can do that, we can move the football. But we can't start 1st and 20 because we get a hole, or 1st and 15. So when I say execute, we've just got to be smart and play smart and then be solid in the kicking game.
You mentioned it. We've played 19 times. This will be the 20th game. 3-0 against them in the playoffs. I don't like to look back and look at the history of that. This is a different team. But I'm going to assume you went back and just dusted off an old itinerary for this week. We've been there enough times. You really don't have to change two things too many ways, do you?
Oh, just for instance, we used to eat in Bruton on the way up, and then after they beat us that year during the regular season, we changed that. Now we eat in Greenville. So we've changed a little bit of our trek up through there. Not being superstitious or anything, but yeah, we went back to 18 and kind of looked at that itinerary when we left, what we did and all. And our kids are used to going on the road. They're told all year long, if you're going to go anywhere in the playoffs, you're going to have to go on the road and win a game, a big game.
Yeah.
And this is it. If we win, we're home next week. If Faith wins, we're region champs. They have to come to us. Pike Road by the brackets got to come to us. So this is a big ball game to get a semifinal game here where we're usually really good at home. And it'd be great to have that opportunity.
And it's always good to play Thanksgiving week. That means you've done something right.
Well, it is. This is I tell the guys all the time, this is a really great job coaching football. If there wasn't any school, where you just come in about 9 or 10, coach a little while, go home, and enjoy the week. And that's kind of what we get to do this coming week if we're fortunate enough to win. But man, we got Andalusia has done like we always seem to do. They've gotten better and better, and they have played tough competition. They got beat by Fairhope, who's a 7A school who won that region in 7A. They got beat by Faith by 1 point. They lost to a Crestview, Florida team that was very, very good, and then they lost to Pike Road. So they're very, very good, and in those games they were close.
Yeah.
So we're going to have our hands full. We know that. And, we're welcoming the challenge to a certain degree. I wish it wasn't quite as good, but that's the way it goes.
That is. Third round of the playoffs. And, Coach, we appreciate you sitting down with us as we do every week. Hopefully, like we said, next week we're doing it again during Thanksgiving.
I hope so.
All right.
A lot of fun.
All right, the second time in 3 weeks we'll face another team with the nickname of the Bulldogs, the UMS-Wright Bulldogs against the Andalusia Bulldogs coming up. We'll be back with the opening kickoff in just a minute. You're listening to the Bulldog Radio Network, Sports Talk 99.5 Mobile, an iHeart radio station.